Yanetrita Setasem.
Of Heru and Jehuti. Let us recap for just a minute where we've been. We began with the creation. And we discovered the essence, the matrix of creation, the very fabric upon which this world is woven. Also, we discovered the very order by which this fabric is sustained, by which it works, and that's Ma'at. First it's the net, and then Ma'at. Now we're going to go deeper into the psychology of human life, of human existence. Because the goddess has created the world, but also she has created the mind and human existence as well. And how does this mind work? We must know how the mind works in order to be able to purify it. We discussed a little bit about the cycle of vice. You should recall about the senses, how they bring information, they give it to your mind, the mind transfers it to your intellect, if you have one. If you don't have one, like an animal, you're manipulated, you're controlled by nature, by instinct. You don't have any possibility for freedom from your bondage at that point. If you have intellect, then your intellect relates that information to your ego. How does it relate to me? After you deal with that information, you act on it, you think about it, residue is left in your unconscious mind, as you recall. That constitutes your karmic basis. All your inclinations are there because of those residues that are in your unconscious mind. They say that you like fast cars. It's because in the past you have thought about fast cars, because you have fantasized about them, and those fantasies, those thoughts leave residues in your mind. Or you've acted with them. Somebody let you ride in a car once. It was fast, and you allowed the idea to stay in your mind, oh, this is wonderful, I wish I could have this for myself. And then you start fantasizing about that. And then the more you fantasize, the more thoughts, the more residue you leave in your unconscious. Eventually, since that residue in order to exist in your mind, it must have a little portion of life force energy attached to it to sustain it. So unfortunately, the more residue you have, the more unconscious impressions you have of ignorance, the more it debilitates your willpower, because your energy is being locked up. Also, your energy, thinking requires energy. If you're depleting your energy by squandering it through desires or the pursuit of desires, you can't think philosophy. That's why the teachings join that you must control your sex desire. You must control your worldly desire in general. Philosophy, understanding the wisdom teaching, allows you to comport yourself in a way that is in keeping with truth. That means, if you understand that you're not going to attain abiding peace and happiness by trying to keep up with the Joneses, and since they got a Cadillac, you have to get a Cadillac too. You're not going to pursue that route. You're not going to waste time. You're not going to squander your energy. You're not going to be those people who have to get the Cadillac, they can't afford it. Then they can't afford to pay their rent or pay for food, but they have the car, they can look good. And since they have mentally agitated way of life, they can't rest because they're too busy keeping up. The wise are not concerned with keeping up. Appearances or the illusions of anyone. You see, authentic sages and saints, they will not cater to people's illusions, to people's fantasies. And this sometimes comes into a conflict with spiritual aspirants, because when you're coming into spiritual teaching, you have no idea what it is. You think you know, but you actually have no idea. And you may have lots of books. When it comes down to you really getting into it, finding spiritual teacher, getting into meditation, practicing teaching, you have really no idea what it is or of what it's leading you to. You have no idea because spiritual philosophy is really a road. It's like a detour off of the main road. Sometimes you go into the idea of practicing spirituality that you can continue with your ordinary life. Continue working on your regular job that you had. Continue with the same relationships that you had. And that you're going to add spirituality to your life. And spiritualize your life. You don't realize that you're going to have to give up your negative associations, which are almost all of your associations. And because even if you have association with righteous people, that's still a negative association the way you're associating with them. So that has to be adjusted. You follow? If you have righteous people in your life, you're relating to them in the wrong way, out of egoism, and you have to adjust that. You're on your job, you're doing something that is unrighteous, and you're teachings, you're realizing that, and you have to adjust that. You have to do something about that. Move towards something that is righteous and beneficial for society. Also, sometimes your idea of spiritual aspiration, you have this idea that you can be a wonderful spiritual aspirant by being by studying spiritual books. And then, because you have read books, some by authentic sages, some by people who are really following their own illusions, you come to some kind of a notion of what spiritual life is all about and what a spiritual teacher should be. And when you come in contact with that person, your illusions start to be challenged. And one or two things happen at that point. You begin to think, well, this person is not what I expected. It's not the way the books that I've been reading say that it should be. So let me move on. Let me go on to another one. Then you go on to another philosophy. Then when you get frustrated with that one, then you move on to another one. Get tired of that one, then you continue. Because nobody is satisfying your concept, your idea. And this is one of the big obstacles for spiritual aspiration. What is a spiritual teacher? What is a spiritual philosophy? This story contains insights into these issues. And you will find the story rendered in this book, although this book has a basic introduction to the story. The meditation is a comprehensive book dealing with all of the systems of meditation that you find in ancient Kemet. The three most important ones: the Glorious Light Meditation System, which we're going to talk about today; the Wisdom Meditation System, which we will practice tomorrow, based on the teachings of the Temple of Aset; the I Am Meditation System, based on the Kemetic scripture of the Purdom Heru. The serpent power system, the cultivation of the life force. In the book, which we'll present a cover later, the Glorious Light Meditation, after this rendition of the myth that will be shown to you, this particular picture comes from the temple of Aset complex, and those of you who will be present, most likely we'll do either Monday or Tuesday. We'll go through and we'll do a presentation of the trip to Egypt, showing you the temples, and this is one of them that we will show you. Some extensive pictures. And this is a complex. Mostly people advertise the Temple of Isis as the Temple of Isis because that's the main structure on this complex, but actually is a complex of temples that are related to the main temple. And this particular complex, what is left of it, it used to have a roof, the walls will go up all the way. See some of the stones on the ground that have been put back into place. This is what is left of the temple of Het Heru on the island, on the Isis island. This was a pilgrimage center in the southern part of the country. Remember we spoke last time, talked to you about how Net, goddess of the north, Aset, goddess of the south, they are aspects of the same goddess, united by the Nile. In this particular rendition of the story, you see here, this character here, holding one of these, a hand drum. In this particular rendition of the story, it tells of how the god Bes, and we don't talk about Bes too much, but Bes, you'll see him right here on the altar, a dwarf god from the ancient times, a form of Heru also. Heru, Bes, is a divinity of mirth, of music, of jovialness. It tells of how Bes brought Het Heru back to the land of Egypt. How she got lost, and how he brought her back through music, and how there was a wonderful festivity upon her return. This festivity turned out to be one of the most important festivals of Kemetic culture. As famous, as powerful, as I discussed last night, possibly even more so than the festival that we're practicing today. This is a festival of the goddess in general, as well as the resurrection. So it has its own importance. But at one time, the Het Heru festival, if you can imagine, everyone from all over the country coming to the Het Heru temple, that we'll see pictures of it later on, to celebrate the coming back of the goddess, coming back home of the goddess. But where did the goddess go? And why does she have to come home? That is the myth. That is the story of Het Heru. This is what you would have seen at the top here of the columns. This is known as the Het Heru column. This part here is actually a sistrum. This is not the form that you see here. This is a different form of the sistrum. And this is the hollow part, although here you see two cobras coming out with sun disk on them. These are symbols of the goddess. Also, you see the goddess always has cow ears. She is related to the bovine quality, the original goddess of creation, Mehurt. See, everything's coming back to the same mighty fullness. And we're going to see how Aset also has a cow form as well. And of course, the cow divinity was not only important in ancient Egypt, but that importance was transferred to certain sects of Hinduism as well. This particular shot is taken from the chapel of Het Heru, which is next to, right on this side, you can't see the whole thing, is next to the temple of Hatshepsut, dedicated to Amun. And this is, we'll hopefully see some pictures of this in the presentation that I'll be doing for you in a few days. A fantastic temple. Now, for the more on the bovine aspect of the goddess. The goddess Het Heru is known as the cow goddess, and she has 7 aspects. 7 aspects which in Assyrian tradition are serviced by the bull. And the bull is a symbol of Asar. Asar is the bull of creation. As I've explained before, the bull aspect, when you have, those of you, once again, using the cow and bull and the farming metaphor, when you live on a farm, you know anything about farms, you know that one bull can service many cows, can beget many calves through many cows, so you don't need many bulls. All you need is one. In like manner, the Kemetic sages have given the understanding that the bull, which is the spirit, engenders creation through the 7 manifestations of the female nature of the goddess. Those 7 manifestations, which are presented in the Book of Coming Forth by Day, the Book of the Dead, they are also known as the 7 Hathors, Sefek Heteru, 7 Heterus. This teaching is what came to be known as the Fates in Greek mythology, because these goddesses, these 7 Heterus, are associated with the fate of the individual. They decree your time of life, they decree the time of the existence of your life, so on and so forth. When you're born, when you die, so on and so forth. In conjunction with Meskenet, who we discussed earlier, the goddess of the future birth. These 7, of course, the mystical number 7, the same number of the 7 energy centers of the psychospiritual consciousness centers that we've been discussing. The same 7 colors of the rainbow. The same notes in the scale of music. The number 7 runs through the entire creation. Not that these are the only 7 principles, because there are, if you go in the scale of music, you have more notes, but these are merely aspects of the same first 7 notes, do you see? And these 7 notes are actually aspects of the one note. And that one note is also known as Om, also known as Amun, also known as Shalom. That initial vibration is what transmutates matter into all the different wonderful manifestations. It's through infinite sound. This is why if you utter chants, and if you practice chanting in its higher form, which is the mental chant, going deep down to the source of chant, you discover the divine self at the source, at the very essence of all sound. These are some more forms of Heru. Here you see her in the form of the cow, with the cow head. So in the form of the hawk, with the human head, the female head with the horns. Also always used. This is where the horns come from. It's from the goddess symbolism. And you see her in her human form. This is the symbol of her name. Remember that we discussed earlier. I gave you Het Heru. Het is the box. Heru is the Spirit, the Divine Self. I'm going to meet him later on. I'm not going to talk too much about him. But for you to know that Heru is the abode in which the Spirit lives. Heru is like Mehurt. This is just a different way of explaining the same philosophy. Mehurt, or that mighty fullness, is that which in the Spirit lives, and which the Spirit comes out in the form of Ra to manifest creation. Ra, in the form of Heru, lives in his creation. So I have news for you. The box that we're talking about here, the head, is creation itself, the universe. Heru, who is the Spirit, lives inside that creation. And where do you think Heru lives? Do you think Heru lives on the other side of creation? Under it? Above it? Remember we discussed the subtlety of the Spirit. Heru permeates. Think of creation like a grid. Lines intersecting in all kinds of ways. Wherever you go, you're always touched by one of the lines. You can't go anywhere and not be. The Spirit is ever present. Omnipresent, as they say. In that house. What I'm getting at is that who also lives in that house? You. And therefore, if you live in a house with someone, what happens? So you bump into them every once in a while, don't you? But let's take it a step further. Let's suppose that you bump into this person, and since they are more subtle than you know how they do those science fiction shows, how one person walks through another? Let's take it a step further. Since you are walking through every area that is permeated by the divine, you must realize that you, being transitory in this house of the divine, in which the divine permeates all, permeates your body, permeates your skin, permeates every cell in your muscles, in your brain. In fact, the thoughts that you think in your mind are composed of spirit, matter. That's what Heru is all about. In fact, you are that same divine self. The problem is that you don't know it. You've somehow fooled yourself into thinking otherwise, into not understanding that. We've got to take that foolishness out. This story begins, as you recall, when Ra emerged from the primeval ocean. You may recall the boat, the divine boat with Muata, sitting at the bow, engendering creation. You see the boat here? You see the statues up here? They're all here. Well, remember when I told you the story of how, after the Divine Self created human beings, they were very powerful. Actually, they were almost godlike. And they became arrogant. They started, and it's funny how in the teachings of most of the ancient world religions, you have this downfall of human beings. It's always discussed. These same people who existed at a time when it was nothing to them to create pyramids, where people today cannot duplicate what was done. This is why. They became arrogant. They started to say, well, and they had long life. They didn't live just 50 years, just 50, 80, 90 years at most, where people live, 100 years. They could live for hundreds of years at that time. So, why we need, we don't need any Ra to be worshipping anybody. We are spirits ourselves. We are basically gods ourselves, so we can do anything we want. They started doing unrighteousness. And then these divinities came into play. The middle one is Het-Heru. These statues are replicas from the cache that was discovered in the tomb of Tutankhamun. These were the kind of statues that you would have seen in the shrines of the different temples. And we're going to show you pictures of those on Monday or Tuesday. This is Jehuti. He's the ibis-headed divinity. We're going to talk a lot about him. And like I discussed a few minutes ago about the teacher-disciple relationship, he manifests also as a baboon. These are his two important forms. There's one other form, which you see up here, which is the moon. And we're going to discuss about that as well. In the beginning, people, they love Ra. This is what the scripture says. And this is a scripture called, it's referred to as the destruction of evil men and women. Also it's known as the story of the divine cow. We call it the myth of Het-Heru and Jehuti. After Ra created human beings, they came to him and they paid homage to him. They performed ushet. With systems, with music, with offerings. And he was well pleased. After thousands of years went by, they started to get arrogant, as we said earlier. And then all of the nature started complaining. Remember we talked about that earlier? How people are polluting the earth, how they're killing each other, how they're not following the regulations. And then Ra decided to do something about it. They turned away from him. So then Ra, being confronted with this issue, these are all the gods and goddesses that Ra brought into being. So in order for Ra to engender creation, he had children. He emanated divinities, and we're going to discuss about them, the tree of gods and goddesses, of the Anunian theology. The gods and goddesses came to him and they complained. Said, Ra, these people, they're blaspheming and they're even talking bad about you. They're saying that you're old and decrepit and you got, your bones are brittle and all the things that people say, your skin is shriveled up, all things you say about older people. You're getting blind, you're. They said, well, I'm going to do something about it. They said, we can't have that. We can't have people running around thinking that they're gods and goddesses when they're lowly, egoistic. We got to teach them a lesson. And he has someone just specially created for this duty. Het-Heru is his daughter. And in this aspect of the myth, she's his daughter. And he comes to her, he calls her and says, I have a task for you. There's some people blaspheming me and they're doing unrighteousness. And you're my right arm, you're my power. Can you go ahead and take care of it for me? And he says, straight away. No problem. That's what I'm here for, to serve you. And so Het-Heru transforms herself into her lioness aspect. Her aspect as the goddess Sekhmet. Sekhmet, we're going to discover at the end of the myth the esoteric implications of this form and the name. Suffice it for now to say that Sekhmet is the form of the goddess which exemplifies the physical power. And you know how lions are, especially the lioness, when they're out hunting, how they're fierce and how they are deadly. How with one little swat of their paw, a human being goes straight down to the ground and they're done for. In this aspect, she came down to the world to take care of the evil men and women. And this is an actual picture of the goddess, taken from one of the panels of the temples. So she set about going after the people, after evil men and women who had turned away from Ra. And the story, the myth, scripture, talks about how she got to liking it. And everyone here should relate to that. How you... And this is a problem that especially people in law enforcement, they have. Where they get to liking beating up on people. They get to liking hurting others. They get to liking putting others in a position of certain people. They get to, because of that degradation in their character. That's not the position for them to be in, for them to be allowed to be in. They abuse others. As well, she got to enjoying the taste of meat. She liked to drink blood. And so much so that she began to forget herself. She began to forget who she was. She began to forget why she was there. How did she come to be there? Where she came from, why she was sent there. And you should be able to relate to this also. When you fall asleep, don't you forget who you are? Don't you forget where you came from? Don't you forget how you got to be where you are? And it doesn't matter. In your dream world, everything seems normal. Everything's proper. You don't ask any questions. How did this happen? Where did this come? It's just there and you accept it. And this delusion came over her mind. This dullness of mind came over her. So the gods and goddesses, they were watching what was happening. And they went back to Ra, because she continued killing. Indiscriminately. So they went back to Ra and said, well, Ra, if you don't stop, your daughter, Heru, all the people, all people are going to be finished. They're going to be gone. There's going to be nobody left. And he says, well, why don't you go? Why don't you go and tell her about it? Shu, go and tell her. Geb, go and tell her. Geb, the earth. Shu, the air. Go and tell her. So what? Not us. We're not going. She's crazy. She's going to try to eat us too. So he says, well, I better go ahead and call Jehuti, who is my most crafty son. He'll know how to bring her back. So he sent Jehuti, the ibis-headed divinity. But he didn't come in his ibis-headed form. He came to her in his baboon form. Two things about the baboon. Baboon is not as imposing a creature as his original form, the ibis-headed man. Also, the baboon is known for its intelligence. In ancient times, baboons were taught in ancient Egypt to go up the palm trees, which are very tall, and to pick dates. I was just reading a humorous book of amazing facts about ancient Egypt. It was talking about how baboons were taught to be waiters at restaurants in ancient Egypt. They were taught to clear tables and to bust the tables and stuff like that. That's smart. He's got some kind of intellect going there, no? And that's what Jehuti symbolizes. He symbolizes intellect. At this point, Heteru has lost her intellect. She's not operating at the level of intellect anymore. She's operating at the level of instinct, of mind. And so he comes to her. At one point, she had just finished eating somebody, and she was lapping her paws, licking herself and enjoying. So she was pretty full, so he came to her at the right time. In between meals. And so he rustled the leaves to let her know that he was there, and he appeared. And so she started for him, and he said, "Whoa!" The dua pose. The dua pose is the pose of adoration, the pose of respect and homage towards that object that you are adoring. Says, "Oh, great lady, before you eat me, which I know that you have the power to do, won't you let me tell you some stories? Let me tell you some parables. If you eat me, you're going to lose all the wealth of that." And he says, What stories are you talking about? Since she was full, she said, "Okay, I'll let you go for now, but I'll eat you when I'm ready. In the meantime, you can go ahead and tell me your stories." So he bought himself a little time by being crafty. First, he began with the story of the vulture and the leopard. There was a vulture and a leopard once who were living, he told her, in the forest. But they both had children. The leopard had kittens, and the vulture had eggs that were hatching into little baby vultures. And they both had a problem. They could not leave the vulture could not leave the nest, and the leopard could not leave the lair, because they were afraid that the other one was going to come and swoop down and take the other's children as a meal. Okay, go ahead and change it. So the vulture and the leopard had a problem. And they decided to come to an agreement. They met with each other. The mother vulture, the mother leopard, they met with each other, and they decided to form a truce. To say, "If you don't attack my children, I won't attack yours. That way we can both go out and hunt for each other's children, and they can thrive and they can survive." And this truce worked for a while, except that when the kittens and the vulture started to grow up, they started hanging out together. And as it happens, one of the kittens killed one of the vultures. And the vulture child, as it was dying, said, "Our families had a deal, and you are going against it. What is the great calamity that you're going to bring on your family?" Then, when the vulture mother comes and sees what has happened, or rather, I had the other way. It is the kitten that kills the vulture. The vulture mother sees what has happened. It goes and kills the kittens. Then the leopard mother comes out seeing what has happened, the vulture flies away. It says, you'll be sorry for what you have done. We have made a solemn oath, and we have sworn upon the name of Ra to keep that oath, and you have broken it. And this because the misunderstanding. The mother thinks that the vulture mother thinks that the leopard mother has gone back on the deal, and actually has happened because of the misunderstanding of the children. And the leopard says, you'll be sorry. Ra will make you pay for what you have done. So then the vulture mother goes on with her life. She sees a fire that has been created by a man who is cooking some food. So then she swoops down and grabs the stick that the man has the piece of meat on. Along with that, the vulture picks up the wood as well as an ember, a piece of red hot charcoal. And then she carries that to her nest. She throws it in a nest for her baby vultures to eat. Then she didn't realize that it had the ember on it, so it burns up the nest and with all her chicks. So Jehudi explains the moral of the story, that every act, every deed that a human being or even an animal performs is watched by the divine. And there is a divine agency which causes there to be a consequence to that action. If the action is based on unrighteousness, the result that will be visited upon a person is unrighteousness, adversity. If the action is righteous, then likewise. It is the first parable that gets Heru starting to think a little bit about life. Because up to now, she has been acting on impulse. She wants to eat somebody, she kills it, not thinking about the implications or the consequences. Next, Jehudi asks her to start walking with him. And so she agrees, because she liked the story. And what he really wants her to do is that he wants her to walk back towards Egypt. Because up to this point, now she ended up in Nubia, in Ethiopia. After running around all the world killing people, she ended up there. She wants her to come back to Ra, to the city of Anu, where they lived. And so she agreed, because she was distracted by his storytelling. So this idea is given to you in the manner in which spiritual teachers speak, through flowery language, through parables, through metaphors. And all the while, they're really leading you to Anu, to the place where you need to be. Anu is the city where Ra lives, the divine self. And that's your ultimate destination. Otherwise, you're wandering through the world, going on instinct, leading yourself to frustration. Because obviously, at this point, she's starting to think about something other than killing, something other than meat eating, so on and so forth. And he tells her the story about a fly that was eaten by a lizard. But first of all, there are two vultures, Jehudi says. One has the faculty of being able to see very far, another has the faculty of being able to hear very far. And so they enter into a competition. Whose sense organ is better? The organ of sight or the organ of hearing? So the one who could see far away said, I can see a fly in the distance. And he's being swallowed up by a lizard. And the one who can hear very well says, well, what's happening now? Well, now I can see that lizard is being swallowed up by a snake. Now, the vulture asks again, what can you see now? What's going on now? So, well, I can see, thank you. I can see a hawk that has swooped down and it has grabbed the snake. And please tell me, going further, then the vulture says, well, I can see now this vulture has, the snake is so heavy that the vulture is skimming the waters of the ocean. And a big fish noticed that and grabbed them both and ate them both. And now I can't see anymore. Can you tell me what is happening now? The one who can hear says, oh, I can hear another fish has eaten that fish. And that fish came too close to the shore, and a lion got a hold of it. And what is happening now? The one who could see now says, oh, now I can see a great winged creature has swooped down and has grabbed this lion and has taken it to its lair high on top of a mountain. And this is called a Sefer. Sefer is a mythical creature with the wings and head of a hawk, the legs of a lion, more powerful. It's called a griffin in the Greek mythology. More powerful than the lion, because usually you think of the lion as the king of nature, the most powerful land animal, all this kind of thing. It's a mythological creature that is more powerful. This Sefer has killed the lion. And what is the moral of the story now that Jehuti brings? He tells her that, do you see, glorious lady, how even the act of that single fly that has been eaten, its own enemy, the lizard, being eaten by the snake by the hawk by the fish, and then the larger fish, and then the lion, and then the griffin, the Sefer. This is the power of Ra, who watches over everything, whose law is all-encompassing and perfect and just, that even that little fly was noticed. And so Heru starts to think about this divinity who is behind creation, who is managing things, who is watching over. As well as ethical consciousness is starting to dawn again in her mind. Ethical consciousness from the standpoint of when your whole life is all about me, and me, you don't care about other people's desires, other people's needs. All you care is about what you want and what you want to do. And when you're obstructed, you get upset, frustrated. Now, having ethical consciousness, you start to have empathy, sympathy. How do other people feel about my actions? So on and so forth. How do actions have a consequence? Then finally he tells her, this, don't you understand, great lady, this is a story about you. This character is you. You are the most powerful divinity. You're the most powerful being on this earth. Even more powerful than the lion, which of course she was at that point. He's trying to show that there's a higher power. one of the Egyptian proverbs that fits in here perfectly. Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. Chance is the name for the law unrecognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. This idea of the law of cause and effect in physical reality, you must understand that there are different planes of reality, and as such, there are different aspects of cause. When you have a dream, going to use the dream metaphor again, what causes your dream to emerge from your consciousness? Sometimes you dream about something you did during the day. Sometimes it has nothing to do with anything you've experienced in life. Where does it come from? Again, the karmic residue in your unconscious mind gives rise to the whole world that you weave in your dream. And this can be residue from a previous lifetime. It could be residue from a fantasy that you're entering into, a desire, so on and so forth. It could be something that you engendered years ago. It could be something that you fear. And once again, all these forms of delusion, mental insanity, they are dispelled when a person enters into spiritual studies and spiritual practices. Next, Ehudi gives Ehuru a story about two jackals. How they were walking on a path, and all of a sudden they were met with a lion who begins roaring at them and very threatening. And so then they look at each other and they say, well, okay, we may as well just stay here. There's nothing to do. So then the lion walks up and says, what's all this about? Why are you not running? Most of my prey, they run away. They at least try to get away. What's wrong with you? They say, well, we figured that you're faster than us. You would have caught us. And so therefore there was no point in running away. And behind this parable is also the understanding of fearlessness. Fearlessness comes to a human being when they finally realize that they are immortal and not finite. The only reason why you have fear of death is because you believe that you are mortal, that you are finite, that you are limited. When you have consciousness of that which is beyond death, and you should really be able to relate to this because you experience this every day, although you don't know it. Every day you fall asleep, you're actually dying. And you do this process over and over on a daily basis. Sometimes you take a nap and you die twice in a day. The difference with death is that you don't come back. You don't wake up into this world. You wake up into another world. The difference between the death of an ordinary human being, an ignorant human being, that is, and an enlightened sage. So the time of death of a sage, since they have woken up to the absolute reality while they're alive, they don't get caught up in the delusion of the dream world. Because that's exactly what happens to you when you fall asleep. And it's when you die. An ignorant person, they will experience an astral existence. When you have a dream, that's an astral existence. But what happens when an ignorant person dies is that they will experience that astral existence. In a mystical way, their soul, or their mind, shall we say, their unconscious mind is judged, and they are led to either being devoured, which is hellish conditions, as we discussed earlier, by the Amit monster. This is what some people call hell. Or they're led to heaven to experience heavenly conditions. But these are not permanent conditions. They're temporary. Until, again, the residue, the karmic residue, is used up. This is what determines the time. When the karmic residue is extinguished, that soul comes back to the world to exist in the plane of time and space, to enter into the plane of causation, to try to purify themselves through Ma'at, so that they can have a proper exit the next time. And this can go on in a cycle that can be indefinite. As long as there is spiritual ignorance, this cycle will continue. Truth protects from fear, and the highest truth, of course, is knowledge of the self. Ignorance is defined as absence of the knowledge of the self. And ignorance, as we say, is the greatest darkness. The greatest untruth. The expectation and fear of death torture the multitude who do not know true reason. Once again, here, you see people at wakes. People going to services after a person dies. And they're crying, and they're slobbering all over the place, and they're all distraught, and they're all bent out of shape because the loved one has died. If you truly believe in God, if you truly believe in heaven, if you truly believe the person is in a better place, why would you be upset about it? Just on a practical level, it doesn't make sense, does it? But people don't think about these things. They just go to church and they must believe whatever it is. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is an egoistic aspect of it, because you can't have that person to hold their hand and for them to rub you, or for them to relate to you and to see their smile. It's that sentimental value as well as the fear of death. And sages don't live in accordance with these ideas because they have nothing to do with reality. Therefore, you are free from these sufferings. But listening to this talk is not going to free you. Listening to this talk and acting in accordance with it in the rest of your life, following the disciplines, allowing yourself to move into a place within yourself where you actually experience these truths. That is what liberates you. That's why intellectual knowledge can help, except to a certain point. Next, Tehuti tells Heheru about the story of the lion and the mouse. A measly little mouse is met by the lion in the forest. And the lion says, "Why are you getting in my way? I'm going to step on you and kill you for being so insolent. I'm this great creature of the forest, and you are this lowly little mouse. You squeaking little runt. You're running around making trouble for everybody, leaving little droppings all over the place." So the mouse says, wait, before you kill me, you should know that I can be of service to you. Even the powerful people can be helped one day by even a lowly person. And the lion says, "You crazy? What can you do for me? I'm the most powerful creature in the forest, and you're trying to make me laugh, right? They say, okay, just for laughs, I'll let you go. But don't let me ever see you again. Till he moves on. Then the lion finds several animals on the way. He finds a goat. He finds a cow. Several animals who have been trapped by this creature called man, who's been setting traps around the forest. Every time the lion finds an animal that's been trapped, he's like, who did this to you? So, man did this to me. You better stay away from him. He's crafty, and he's wily, and he's going to trap you and kill you. So, what are you talking about? I am this great creature, pride and boastfulness. I'm the king. Who is this man? Let me see this man. I'll teach him a lesson. So, don't do it. So he kept on looking for man. So then, he keeps on walking around, and he fell into a trap, into a hole that man had dug, and with a net. So now the lion was caught fast. He couldn't get out. He's thrashing all over the place, and he can't get out. And then he resigns himself. I guess the sun is coming over the horizon, and man is going to be returning to check his traps soon. I guess I better resign myself. He's got me. And then all of a sudden he starts hearing a squeaking noise. And it's the little mouse. And the mouse comes around. And he says, don't fear, Mr. Lion. I will get you out. I will gnaw at the net.